Is Matt with us tonight? And is he ready? He's with us. I know he's with us.
Yeah, I'm here. You want me
Okay.
to spotlight myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
Spotlight is up.
You
There
are
you
there.
go, Matt.
There you
You're
are.
on
All right.
center screen, sir. At 48 degrees, you're cooking.
Yeah, it's still 48, despite the heat. Okay. Last week at the tail end of the meeting, I was asked to show a demonstration of how to turn a bowl from a log. So what I've got here is I've got a couple pieces of this is birch. Okay, this is a birch log, and I've got another piece of it that I cut in half. Okay, and the pith, I think the pith is in there, but we'll probably be down below it. So I do another demonstration where I show how to alter the angle that you start a natural edge piece off to give you an asymmetric edge. So I'm going to sort of combine that demo with this demo and use the graphic from it to show my shape, and I'm going to offset this a little bit to try to get an asymmetric edge on it too, and we'll see how it goes. Now, because it's birch, and I don't intend to super glue it in the demo, it's likely I may not keep all the bark on it. But I'm going to cut to my little bowl orientation adjustments. This is one of the pieces that I've turned. It is a natural edge piece with a little bit of an offset to get an off center asymmetric bark on it. This is the shape I'm going to try. On this piece, I'm not going to put the pedestal on the bottom. I'm going to turn a little bit of an OG at the top and then go to the tenon on the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tenon on it. Now, what I'm also going to do is at the point when I'm starting, as I'm putting the tenon on it, is I am going to offset the piece a little bit. I'm going to tilt it a little bit. So my tenon is going to be a little bit off. My tenon is going to be where I want it, but the piece is going to be off center based on how the tenon is. So so I want to shift to this and dispense with that. So what I want to do is I want to first start the piece off like this, because I want to put my tenon on the flat side. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, if I was going to mount it straight into the piece, I would mount it like this. But I want to shift this part of it at the headstock on the side opposite where the tenon's going to go a little bit, so that I'm going to shift it like 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So this piece is now, I don't know if y'all can see this. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit, but it is not square to the tailstock. Okay. It's not, it's square would be here. It's not. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure things are tight, get out of the firing line like was spoken about earlier, and begin to put my tenon on. Now I've got my little tenon measuring thing here, so I can quickly do this with it and say that's how big my tenon's going to be. So I need to cut off these section of here that's a little bit it's too far this way. So I'm going to, in the process of it, I'm going to cut this off and put my tenon on. So that's what I'm going to do. And then once I get that, I'm going to start shaping the bottom of the bowl while it's still in the between centers here. All right. Any questions so far?
No.
All right. I am going to primarily use deep fluted bowl gouge. I can hear somebody talking, so please speak up. Deep fluted bowl gouge, swept back shoulders. All right. And I will shape the tenon at the end to get it square with the skew, but I'm going to do most of this with this gouge. Anybody out there except the crickets?
No, just
We're here.
Yeah,
Us too.
sounds good.
Crickets.
I'm used to heckling, so wait in.
All right. Matt, your voice is just a little low. I mean, I can hear you, but
I just put my face shield on. How's that?
actually much better.
I hear you loud and clear.
All right, I'm just, the boom mic is moving a little bit. So I'm getting my tool rest as close as I can and testing the spin. So I'm making sure I'm not hitting my tool rest. And I'm going to try, and what I'm doing here, a lot of this is I'm cutting air, okay? So I'm not going to rub the bevel. I'm going to cut the air. I'm going to cut in an arc through the air to keep my arc where I want it, okay? So if you rub the bevel, every time you're off the wood, your tool's going to jump. So you don't want that. So I'm trying to get a shearing cut, and I'm going to cut the bevel. I'm going to cut these corners off and then creep up to this point here where my tenon is. All right, any questions on that?
Let's
No.
turn wood.
Now that's pretty off center. Doesn't that look like fun?
You're going to be asked, what's the speed?
I'm 792. If this comes off, it's going airborne.
We can send Doug Rowe over to catch it for you.
792. No, it's 1250 all day long.
He's good at throwing them off, but he's not good at catching them. I'm trying not to take too big a bite. All right. Let's have a look at where she is. So you can see, I don't know if you can see this or not. I've got ridges here on this part here. Once I get off of the part where I'm rubbing the bevel, I'm getting ridges. So that's even not rubbing the bevel, it's bouncing a bit, but that's not important right now. So let me get my tenon squared away, and then we'll go from there. Now, what I'm trying to do with the skew here is get a really flat shoulder to put the top of my jaws on. So, and it's not quite flat. It's indented a little. So I think that'll work. I think that'll hold it. All right. So, my bowl is the outside of my bowl is going to curve away from. It's going to come down to the tenon and curve away from it this way. So I want to take a little more off and not touch this shoulder I've just created for my jaws. So I'm going to creep up on it a little bit. Now I've turned it up a little bit. And I'm taking a shearing cut. We've got a lot of bark flapping around here. Let's see, come back the other way, see if I can cut some of that off. All right, now, one of the things I'm looking at here is I'm going to have to, wherever this ends, this is going to be the edge of my bowl. So ideally, what I'd like to do is take it up all the way up into here, into the bark. So let's see if I can do that successfully and not hurt myself while doing it.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Matt, can
Yes,
you
sir.
talk for just half a second about your glove? A couple of people have asked a question about your glove.
I wear a glove because when I first started turning years ago, I was cutting up some pen blanks on a table saw and went through my finger. Nearly cut it off. It was repaired, but it's got some serious scar tissue, and it is heavily sensitive to cold and sharp things like metal object, like the tool rest. I'm in serious pain if I get it on the tool rest for too long a time. So I'm protecting it that way. I am also extremely conscious and careful of not getting it into the moving piece, because I know that the moving piece can take the glove. So I never go past the edge of the tool rest, okay? Because I know it can get caught up. But I do it mostly for protection of my finger, so I can turn longer without being in pain, and because I like to turn fast, and I've abraded hair off of my hands and arms, and cut myself with the flying chips because of some of the speeds and some of the woods I've turned. Dry cherry was one of them. So I do it to protect my hand and protect my finger, and that's why I wear it. So I'm not wearing one on the other hand.
For those folks who are asking too, you need to notice that Matt's glove is not like a cotton jersey glove. It's more of a leather, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, this is a mechanic's glove.
Yeah.
It's insulated for the winter because it's freaking cold in here, and it's tight. It's tight on my hand, so that there's almost nothing loose and flapping. It's not a basic yard glove or anything like that. So
Thank you.
hope that answers the questions.
I think so. Thank you.
Yep. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to bring this edge up into here so that I at least have bark all the way around, so I don't have this cut surface as part of my edge of my bowl. So I've got a ways to go yet. So let me see if I can set where that is going to be here. So I'm almost there, but I have further to go on this side. On this side, I'm almost there, but on this side, I have further to go. So let's creep up on it a little bit more.
Once you take that all the way down and catch up, aren't you just going to lose your offset though? It's just going to be
No,
round
because
at that point, right?
the edge is still going to be offset. Okay.
Like doing a natural edge bowl and getting it lined up to get the two sides even. This time Matt's making them uneven.
Yep. So you can see this. It's not. This is flat. The bowl surface is actually this. So I'm still going to be uneven a little bit. I didn't move it all that much. So, and I'm almost there. Need to be in here. Okay.
Well, what I mean is once you bring that side down.
I'm not going to bring the side down. I'm not going to touch the bar.
Oh, you're not going to make that all the way around? No, the part that your cut edge, where you got your cut edge, once you get that down to where you took a skim off of it, the other side is already longer. So to bring that, I see you're saying it'll still be skewed.
That's right.
It'll be cocked, but at that point, the center to the outer edge will be the same diameter.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I've got a little bit left here.
Folks, if you're joining us right now, this is Matt doing a demonstration for us tonight. Matt Harber's doing it. This demonstration will be on our website and on our YouTube channel. So if you see it now and you want to see it again and get a close up on a detail, you can do so. We can't do stop action and close-ups in this program.
This is live.
You can do it on YouTube. Nice scrape.
Thank you. That was a cut. So what I've done, the difference here is that the scrape would be like this. The scrape would this. If I turn the tool in, I get this. See the shavings I'm getting.
Little curly cues we all look for.
Little tiny ones. Angel hair curly cues.
Matt, is that green or dried?
No. This was cut. Came down in a storm in the spring.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that cut. All right. So one of the things I will point out here is you can see how the edge of the bowl is elongate, undulates, if you will. Okay. So I'm not going to touch that bark on the top, and I will. I'm going to take a final cut on the bottom here on this section. I've got a nice smooth. I like that. Okay. I got a little bit of cleanup to do here. So this isn't, these techniques are the ones I was doing last week in that shearing versus scraping bit I did. All right, so there's where I'm at so far. And it's not all that visibly offset, but it is slightly offset. All right, so I'm going to switch it around and do the inside of the bowl.
You got your truck clean.
Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, that got a lot of mileage.
That was like, I think I posted that thing like 2 years ago or something like that. We know how. Lots of suggestions, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
I heard what Easy Off
what he's
Oven Cleaner is
referring to
really good
is-
for it.
What he's referring to is I had about 2 years ago, this chuck was pretty crusted up with lacquer and wet wood and all kind of stuff. So I asked a question on another group, Wood Turning Connections, about what people's suggestions were for how to clean it. And I got a ton of suggestions, and it recently got resurrected. The whole discussion got resurrected.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt. I was wondering. I was like, Matt knows how to clean his chuck, but I'll just throw out there what I use anyway. So.
Oh, it was good. I appreciate all the suggestions. I haven't tried that the oven cleaner stuff. That was one of the things I haven't tried. So
Yeah, that works wonders.
yeah, well, the next time somebody asks, or next time the opportunity arises, I'm certainly going to try it because a lot of people do that. So who knows?
You have to heat the chuck up in the oven first.
The trick with oven cleaner is wear gloves.
Yeah. Well, I first tried mineral spirits, and that didn't work quite so well. I mean, it did get some cleaning, but it was not satisfactory. So then I used, I think I said lacquer thinner, and that cleaned it up real good. Primarily because the sanding sealer I spray here at the lathe is a lacquer-based sanding sealer, and probably some of that crust was lacquer stuff. So anyway, so I am going to hollow the inside of the bowl. I am not going to drill it out with anything. I'm just going to have at it with the deep fluted bowl gouge again, maybe something else. One of the things, let me switch to this and kill the light. How's that look? No, that doesn't look good. Okay.
That looks good.
Yeah, I got to get some masking tape to make it look good there. So one of the things you're dealing with here is you're dealing with an uneven edge. So you have to be very careful. You want to preserve that uneven edge. So Masking tape, 1,001 uses. So what I'm going to do so that I don't destroy my edge is I'm going to make cuts from the center to the rim. And these are not, well, I will be riding the bevel in some places. I'm mostly going to be cutting air again, because clearly if I'm cutting the wood here, I'm not cutting it out here. You know, let me switch to this camera and show that. If I'm cutting the wood here, when I roll the piece, I'm not cutting wood here. So I've got to be very careful. I've got to watch the shadow of my edge and not go too far, because I don't want to wreck this edge. I want to preserve that edge as much as I can. So
What's the bevel angle of your tool?
I don't know. I've changed it twice. How would you measure it?
Looks like 53 1/4.
Yeah, it's somewhere between 50 and 55 degrees, I would guess.
You see, I was close.
Yeah. You are not wrong, Mr. Eddie. Captain Eddie.
Those numbers don't mean a thing, folks, if you can work with the tool.
I need to change some things. We'll take a look. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let me switch back to this one to show you what I see. Doesn't that look interesting? So I'm going to drop my tool rest a little bit so I can get a better angle on it. So
Hair trimmers.
yeah, you know, I cut this stuff off with the scissors the other day. Works good.
Magic of TV.
Yeah. So again, I have to watch how close I'm getting to this to the edge of this piece, because I want to preserve my bark. So that's good to see. I'm taking light cuts so I don't hurt anything. And I'm watching the outside contour of my bowl.
You lost them.
What?
Hold on, Matt.
I got it.
All right, you got them?
Yeah, I'm spotlighted again. Okay, so one of the things you gotta be careful also is to be careful down here. You can see that I'm starting to peel things back, and I want to preserve this piece of it here too. So I don't want to go too far. I don't want to get too confident that I could just hollow through the bowl. I've got to be cognizant that I'm not at the edge yet down here. So I've got to watch that also.
Matt, we have a question in the chat.
Yes, sir.
Could you come in with a parting tool to preserve the edge?
You could. If I was coming in, I would actually use a skew over a parting tool. Okay. Your problem is that you've got is that the edge is undulating. Let me switch to this other camera here and show the overhead camera and show that. Okay. Can you see how this goes? See how it undulates back and forth? So, you know, if I'm coming in with the skew, if I'm here, coming in here, I'm going to be whacking it with this up here. Okay. So one of the reasons why I'm doing it the way I am is so I can approach it and get real soft with my cuts right near the edge while I watch the outside contours of my bowl. Okay. So
I understand that. I would think the in out in was going to give us a problem with almost any tool right now.
Yeah, and anything you're doing, you got to be cautious with it. Now, if you'd like, I can try going in with the skew and see if I can get it done here.
I'd rather you continue on the road you started.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'd rather you did.
That's fine. We won't prove anything tonight by turning this bowl with a skew.
We can get Paul Barn to come over and catch it. You know.
Remember, he's not good on catching. He's just good on throwing.
Oh, okay. Dick
Now,
says,
I'm taking a really light cut, watching the contour of my ball, the outer contour of my ball, and following that, because that outer contour is the best idea I have of where the edge of that ball is. So I might be cutting hard here, but when I get up near the edge, I go light. I don't want to push through the edge of the ball. I don't want to destroy my edge. And once I've got my ball edge where I want it with the thinness, it's still a little thick here. I don't want to come back to it because won't be as well supported. So I'm trying to get this decent thinness. And let me switch to the other camera here. So show you my progress on it. So I could probably go a little thinner. I'm delighted that I've kept as much of the bark so far as I have. So let's try and go a little thinner on that and see if I can make it work. So the cut I'm taking is with the handle of the tool dropped a bit, so and it's getting a shearing scrape on the inside of the ball. And I can do the same thing, and it's shearing because the handle is dropped and the tool edge is at an angle to the way the wood is coming into it. Very light. Okay. Let's go with that. I'm going to shift my tool rest in so I can get it, so I'm not so far from the wood I'm cutting.
Doug is working, as Matt is working here, I'm going to remind you folks, it's 1:30. Matt Harber is doing a demonstration here on Worldwide Wood Turners. And if you have any questions, you can place them in chat, but we'll take some questions following the demonstration.
All right, now let's see if there's anything I need to work on. Aha. Everybody see that? I broke a piece out. I don't know where it went.
That came back out at us.
Yeah, the piece is actually not that good a piece. Let me switch to the overhead camera. And I don't know if you all can see this, but there's a series of cracks through here. And this piece that broke out along two of those cracks here. So
we have Doug Rowe coming over to help you glue it back together.
Yeah, I don't know where it went. I don't see it anywhere. So
I was gonna say,
glue it to sawdust. That's all you need.
Doug Rowe, run outside and see if you can catch it.
Hey, Kim, how about some resin in there? What do you think?
Right, so
as long as it's dry.
It's probably not dry enough for the resin.
It'd be a whole lot easier to get resin from my house than Kim's.
Yes, it would.
It's all right. I'm still trying to convince Doug to send me some of that birch that you gave him.
The resin
Harold
works
gave
fine
me
on
that
the.
birch, not Matt.
Hey, now one of the things.
Never mind.
One of the things that I see here is that this part of the wall is a little too thick. I want it thinner. I want this thinner. See how thin this is here? Well, you can't see it. Let me switch to. So this is my wall here. but it's substantially thicker here. So I want to try and get this thinner. So I'm going to have to take this part of it closer to the edge.
Matt, may I ask a question?
Yeah, certainly.
Why would you choose to go from the inside out versus the outside in, especially when you're trying to salvage the bark?
Well, I can go outside in if I'm. One of the reasons I'm going out inside out is I'm trying to preserve my edges. Okay. I can't ride a bevel, okay, because I don't have a bevel on half of the wood. I can't ride the bevel because half of the wood is not there. If you follow what I'm saying, if that makes sense. Does it make sense? So I could do that, and I have done that.
I understand.
So that would look like this, but notice where my tool handle is like, I'm hanging over the edge of the lathe. You follow me? And it's a lot easier to have my handle tucked into my hip. Lost another piece. I saw where that one went. So yeah, those cracks are problematic. But it's still, you notice that I still, even going in, I still didn't cut this bark off with it here. So I still have some bark flaps that didn't get cut off with that. So honestly, it's not going to matter if I go in or out. I'm still going to get the same sort of issue. You're going to tear your bark off if you stress it too much. So the trick is to go lightly on the edge, whether you're going inside out or you're riding the bevel or trying to ride the bevel going in this way. Does that make sense, Kim? Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna clean up the inside of this with a little bit. No, let's see.
Now, is the reason that the one side's thicker than the other because it's offset a little bit?
Well, it's also the way I'm cutting into it, because I'm this thick out here at the outside of it. Let me shift to the overhead camera and show that a little better. So out here, I'm this thick, but as I get further down in, it's widening out a little bit. My contour is shifting in this way. Okay, here on the outside, my contour is like this, right? But as it shifts this way, and as I try to follow it on the inside, I'm clearly getting a little too far from that edge. I'm you know what I'm saying? I'm not this thin. I'm not thin here like I am here. See how thin that is here? So as I get down here, and the angle is changing, so instead of it being the angle that the wood is here is straight out this way, it's now this way here. So you're getting a different cross section of the bark. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No.
The bark is shifting this way. So you've got a wider cross section of the bark here than you do here. So here, even if my wall thickness is about the same, okay, but instead of it being just this little bit here, it's now shifted here. So it's covering a larger area, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go clean across the bottom of the bowl here with a different tool. Let me shift this off like this, and then I'll take it off and show it to you. right. So from the top, it looks like that. But from the side, it looks like that and like that. And you can't really see it all that well from this angle, but this side is taller than this side, which is from the offset. So that's how those bowls are turned. Use a better piece of wood than I used. So anyway, that's basically the demonstration. Are there any questions apart from finishing the bottom? Is basically the demonstration. Are there any questions on this?
Feel free, gang, jump in.
One statement that you stayed out of the firing range when that piece came off, right?
Yeah, both times. I lost 2 chunks of this. So there was a small wedge and then another wedge. So yeah, I was over here.
I have a question.
Good job.
Yes, good job. The question is would you try to finish it on the lathe, or would you just do a hand finish afterwards on that?
I use on pieces that have natural edges, I try to use a lacquer or a spray. So I may sanding sealer it while I'm on the lathe and while I'm sanding it, but you have to be very careful when you're sanding natural edge pieces. It's a good way to get your fingers hurt. So you got to, it's like was said earlier, you got to try and stay out of the firing line. So I will use the sanding sealer if I need to. I will sand on the lathe, but the finishing I do off the lathe because I want the same finish on the bark that I have on the rest of the piece, and I'm usually using a spray lacquer or a spray urethane of some kind.
Anybody else?
I think it was a good demonstration. I think a lot of people don't understand you've got to practice at that a lot. And
yeah,
I have taken a good many classes at Aramon School of Arts and Crafts, and some of them was pertain to that. And you just have to practice and practice, and you're not going to get perfect ones every time you do it. Maybe not in the beginning, but it takes a lot of practice to do it and get the feel of that hitting and missing.
Yeah, and when we're first taught to turn, we're taught ride the bevel, get a shoulder where you can put your bevel on and you can ride your bevel all the way across the inside of the bowl, all around the outside of the bowl. When you start introducing natural edge or anything with cavities like a burl piece or something like that, anytime you try to ride the bevel, especially if you're pushing hard on the bevel, you're going to get bumps and it's going to really screw up the piece in the lines of your cut. So you now have to change the idea of how you turn to not ride the bevel necessarily until you've got solid wood all the way around. Because any bump, even if you've ever turned a piece that has a knot in it, the same thing. All of a sudden the hardness of the wood changes and your tool doesn't ride the bevel the same way. So you now have to shift your thinking. I am cutting with my edge. My edge is following an imagined arc or a visualized arc in space. So I am turning that tool edge is in, I've got it turned, so I'm getting a shear, so I get clean cuts. I'm not taking a big bite, because if I try to take a big bite, I'll just shred the piece. And I'm following a visualized curve in space that gives me the curve I want on the bowl. So I am following this curve, despite the fact that half of the wood isn't here for a good 1.5 inches of the piece. I'm still following that curve with my tool edge, whether I've got wood supporting it or not. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the same thing on the inside of the piece is and getting light cuts on the on the interior here is because I'm really trying to be very, very careful. I'm trying, the tool is not really supported by the wood behind it, especially where there's no wood at all. So, and you don't want to, be pushing hard on it and then, all of a sudden with no wood, you just tear your piece apart. So you've got to maintain control of your tool and your tool edge and where it is, and be very cautious about what you're doing. So,
As I said before, it takes a lot of practice.
Yep,
Practice,
it does.
practice, practice.
And the first
What-
couple pieces you're going to do, you're probably gonna not survive. So
Right. Keep your hands out of the way.
that's right.
No,
Assume
one-
it's going to break on you.
One
I'm
thing
sorry.
one thing that may be important on here, you're saying ride the bevel. You probably need to float on the bevel versus ride the bevel. If you push the wood against on the bevel, you start getting harmonic vibrations and everything else. So you really need to float the bevel. Is probably a better terminology. We were told to ride it, but floating it's probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah, sure. But the important point about that is you can't do that when you're turning a natural edge piece, because there's nothing to ride. There's nothing to float on. You're just, you're turning an empty space a lot. So
Right.
you're
It's hard to
dependent on-
understand until you do it.
right.
I'll throw a nickel in here. I found my best practice was on wet wood.
Yep, it's more forgiving.
Yes. And doesn't hurt as bad when it hits you.
Yeah.
Hey, and then my 2 cents on it, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week too with the natural edge bowls. A good tip to help you keep that bark on is just keep running some beads of CA glue around it, and let that set up, and it'll help some of that bark right on the edge stay on.
Yeah, under normal circumstances on a piece like this, before I started doing the inside, I would super glue along the edge of where the spongy outer wood meets the heartwood. All of that would have super glue. Before I even started turning the inside, while all the bark was still on it, the whole thing would get super glue on the edge. And make sure it's cured, because you don't want that stuff spattering all over.
Matt, I think you did a wonderful presentation tonight. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
And great tool use, great design use, and some good tips. And folks, if you want to give that a try, we'd like to see the results. Not good, bad, or ugly. I'd like to see the results.